If you can master this exercise, you will never have a problem with chord changes again. Now, I'm not going to waste my time or yours with a long introduction that you're probably just going to skip through, so let's just get straight to the point. Okay, so for this chord progression, we're not using a pick and we're not going to strum. All we're going to do is use these 3 fingers to pluck the notes that we're fretting. And we're going to be using just 4 chords with this exercise. The first one, place your index finger on the 8th fret of the D string. Then you have the 10th fret of the G string and the 10th fret of the high E string. And then you just pluck those 3 notes. Then for this next shape, 7th fret on the D string, 10th fret of the G string and 8th fret of the high E string. So far we have this. And then we take those exact same shapes and move everything down by just 1 string. So before we had this, and then we're doing the exact same thing, but this time 8th fret of the A string, 10th fret of the D string and 10th fret of the B string. And then the final chord in this exercise is 7th fret of the A string, 10th fret of the D string and 8th fret of the B string. So altogether we have this. Now, anyone can try this exercise. Obviously your skill level will determine how well you're able to play it in the beginning, but I would strongly recommend you practice this along to a metronome, starting first of all with a speed that you're comfortable with and then gradually raising it whenever you feel comfortable to do so. Now, something to remember, don't just practice it until you can play it right, practice it until you can't play it wrong. Now, I'm going to start at 60 BPM just for demonstration purposes, but if you need to find a metronome and set it even slower than that, then that's completely fine. We all need to start somewhere. So this is how it should sound at 60 BPM. Now, I personally would recommend raising the tempo by 10 BPM increments whenever you feel like you've mastered the previous tempo. So we started at 60, now we're going to move up to 70 BPM. Now, I'm not going to go through every tempo, but I am going to play it at 120 BPM just so that you can see the kind of thing that we're aiming for. Now, before we finish, here's something you can do to make it that little bit more challenging and a bit more interesting. So when we're doing the exercise, on every repeat, rather than doing the same progression again, what we can do instead is move everything down 1 fret until we gradually reach the bottom of the fretboard. So this is how we would do that. 2, 3, 4. Moving down by just a single fret every single time, and so on. And then when we get to the bottom, you've got 2 options. Either you can come back up the fretboard doing the exact same progression we were just doing, so that will be like this. And so on and so forth. Or, if you really want to get fancy with it, you can reverse the order of the chords. So when we come back up, you could do this. And so on. Now, that brings me to the end of that little chord changing exercise. Now, if you found this useful, please leave a like on this video and share it around with your friends, and please hit that subscribe button. And also, here's a little something for you. Comment down below what BPM you can play it at perfectly at the moment. And then in, say, a week's time or something like that, come back to that video, find the same comment that you wrote before, and leave a reply to that comment saying what BPM you can play it at now, because then you can see your own progress in real time, and that I find will be really motivating. And once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Now, I'm not going to waste my time or yours with a long introduction that you're probably just going to skip through. Right. Test. Hello. Testing, testing. Now, I would strongly recommend... Now I would strongly recommend practicing this along to a metronome and then gradually... Now I would strongly recommend practicing this along to a metronome. Now I would strongly recommend practicing this along to